Good evening. Is there something rotten going on when it comes to public broadcasting in this country, particularly when it comes to nationwide television? Lynched starts right now. Good evening, thanks so much for your company tonight. Well, the axe fell on the Canterbury Live programme, a show that many in Christchurch would say gave them a helping hand when no one else would. Now, Māori television's star broadcaster Mihi Forbes has quit after complaining of management interference in her current affairs show. So what is going on in this country? To discuss the state or otherwise of public television in this country, tonight I'm joined by Jared Smythe. Jared has seen many changes in the New Zealand media landscape. His career began in 1969 as a cameraman for then State Television. He's also an award-winning filmmaker and director behind the critically acclaimed documentaries When a City Falls and Auntie and the Star People. Also joining me tonight is Andrew Gunn. He's spent 13 years working for TVNZ's children's unit and continues to write for television. Last year he wrote the script for his second feature film, 3 Mile Limit, based on the early days of pirate radio station Radio Hauraki. Andrew is also a columnist for the Christchurch Press, and they both join me tonight. Thanks so much for your time, gentlemen. I appreciate it. What is going on with public television, Jared, in this country? Are we at a terrible time? It seems that Canterbury Live, Mihi Forbes, what on earth is going on? TVNZ7. It doesn't seem like a good place to be a journalist at the moment, if I'm being completely honest. What do you say?
Well, I'd say it's difficult to find work at the moment, probably.
Yeah.
Something rotten. Maybe there is a corpse, maybe something's died and we're in transition and looking for something new.
Could that be seen then as a good thing, that perhaps the days of television, nationwide television as it were, not local, thank you, are they on the decline, do you think? Because, in fact, when I even say that, that can't be true, because I think One News's ratings and 7 Sharp's ratings are at record highs. For many years there was that downward trend, but all of a sudden it spiked again. What do we put that down to?
Have they spiked again?
Yes.
Is that accumulative, and does that measure the amount of people watching or the percentage? In other words, are there more people watching television than ever in New Zealand? Is that what that says?
Yeah, I think that's part of another research package that actually suggests that is actually happening too. Wow. So this whole myth that we think we're experiencing of the days of television over appear not actually to be the case. What do you make of that, Andrew?
Well, look, I don't know those figures, but I'd be a bit doubtful about that. I think the general trend is away from the old model of network television, and it's moving towards loosely the internet or YouTube or things like that. And in a way, we talk about a crisis, but in a way, there's an opportunity there. But it's just the way it's managed, and particularly where public broadcasting fits into it.
Yeah.
I want to discuss, and it sounds like a dumb question, but I think it's actually quite important, because I think that perhaps middle management at some of the networks don't really know what they're doing in terms of journalism. So let me ask you the simple question: what is journalism?
It comes from a French word, de jour. So it's the events of the day. De jour meaning the day. So it's journalism is of the day. So it's something that's observed and processed and published.
Well, I've learnt something tonight already. That's great.
Quite good, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was quite good. I quite like that. Do you think that journalism in this country, by and large, is in good heart?
No, it's not.
Why do you say that?
Because it hardly exists. I guess the most effective way for journalism to reach its audience is television. That's what a lot of us do every day for hours, watch it. That vehicle has abandoned current affairs by and large in the last decade or two. And you can say that's because of a government policy, or you can say it's because of technology and how it's changing.
Is it a bit of both?
I think so, yeah. I think it's a bit of both. New Zealand is unusual in that the broadcaster has to declare a dividend. The broadcaster being those who get public money, they have to declare a dividend to the government. So ratings or selling advertising is very important. It's a wee bit like saying to a hospital, you have to declare a dividend so the hospital can make money out of cosmetic surgery but can't do cancer anymore because it's too costly. So current affairs has sort of gone from TV. In fact, as soon as they announced the policy, one of the big flagship current affairs programs, Assignment, that used to be on TV1 on a Thursday night,
right.
that had,
First to go.
had 35 full-time staff. I mean, they were investigative, serious stuff. They went within weeks, and it's not been replaced.
Do you think, and I remember that, do you think that was the start of, or the sign of things to come when that program that was very meaty, it would cover everything, including global affairs, do you think that was the start of a downward trend, do you think, in this country?
It was the start of the transition to inquiring people, looking elsewhere. And so we have a very strong online presence in New Zealand, and you know, a lot of young people I know don't have television sets in their houses, and they're doing their own research on Facebook or wherever, social media, and I think that's not unhealthy. So, you know, that has been replaced by and large, I think.
Andrew, what do you make of the state of journalism in this country? Do you worry to the same extent that Jury's just said?
Yeah, I do, and I think it's to do with resourcing. So journalism is partly just reporting the day's news, in a fair and balanced way, as our friends would at Fox News would
You've been
say.
working at Fox.
That's right, yeah. Or just and just with accuracy. But then you've got the current affairs side of it, which is delving more deeply into issues that, and it's issues that are of public interest, not necessarily issues that the public are interested in. I mean, they will overlap, but there are some times when the more boring story is actually the more important, and the more ratings-driven story isn't actually that important or newsworthy. And of course, when you've got a hybrid model of television like we have with TVNZ, where exactly as Jared said, they have to make a profit, then there's got to be some tension there.
You see, there used to be a sort of a fine balancing act in this country of sort of you'd have your tabloid journalism, which I'm ashamed of. I don't mind. I've produced it before in the past, but you can also, or you used to be able to have the 60 Minutes of this world as well. When it was on, TV1, we used to have 2020 that uncovered the Morgan Fahey episode, and the minute that TVNZ picked it up, it decided to go for the tabloid model, and then you start seeing Nikki Watson on the front, as their lead story, talking about her Chihuahua dog.
Both called current affairs.
And both called current affairs.
And one takes a lot more resources than the other. To get Nikki Watson to sit there and talk about her Chihuahua is much less resource intensive than spending a long investigation into an important matter.
But here's the weird thing though, and it's probably a good and a bad thing. The Nikki Watson episode, if I recall when I was working at TVNZ, was one of 2020's most watched episodes. But does it make it right though? I don't want to sound like a moralistic high ground person here, but I couldn't help but thinking, shite, really?
It raises the interesting thought, in a democracy, if the news doesn't rate, should it still exist? And that's really the heart of the inquiry, isn't it? If you don't tell stories in a democracy, it's very hard to inform the people. Whether the people are interested or not should not be the criteria as to whether the story's told or not.
So we're in a dangerous place at the moment then, aren't we? Because the public in New Zealand won't be well informed because we don't have any mainstream current affairs program now on a daily basis taking our politicians to task. And I think we should all be concerned about that.
No, absolutely, yeah. And it comes down to that point about where is the space for public broadcasting and current affairs and that sort of thing.
We've got so much to discuss, but we have to take a break, oddly enough. So we'll do that right now. We'll come back with some more thoughts on public television shortly. Stay with us.
Kids television is right here on CTV. Tune in every Saturday from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. for an exciting range of fantastic kids programming. Join in with all the fun Saturday mornings from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. on CTV.
At Bowden Environmental, we specialise in all aspects of resource management, so you don't have to deal with the paperwork. With the skills and knowledge to organise any environmental work, we can guide you through the process from start to finish. From organising consents and farm environmental plans to pump and well testing, Bowden Environmental has it covered. Save time and remove the stress. See the specialist. Bowden Environmental. Computer not working? Replace or repair? DIY or get a technician? Looking for parts? Thinking of upgrading? Need accessories? You've got questions, we've got answers. Global PC.
Come on down to Ferrymead Golf. Care for a game of paintball? How about some swings on the old driving range? Or on our par 3 9-hole golf course? Test your skills on the mini golf course or have a go at the airgun shooting range. Then relax at the Wow Cafe with one of our super succulent Wow Burgers. Whether you want to perfect your swing or are looking for a fun family day out, come down to Ferrymead Golf, 50 Ferrymead Park Drive, right next to the Ferrymead Heritage Park.
Arts 21 showcases the vast creative talent and minds that are making a name for themselves in Europe and beyond. Think outside the square with Arts 21.
Welcome back to Lynched on CTV. Tonight we're discussing the future of public television in this country. Filmmaker Jared Smythe and television writer Andrew Gunn are my guests. Jared, let's talk about Campbell Live. When they announced it was under review, did you think that meant it's gone?
Yeah, I did.
Why?
Because it's been a bit of a procession of journalists like Campbell being taken out. The latest one is Mihi Forbes at Māori Television. Probably both taken out after the CEO has changed. The CEO may have been a political appointment. It's
well, it was at Māori Television largely.
Power Maxwell. Well, the
That's
staff
right.
were pretty upset about it.
See, I don't get that. I mean, you know, this is all hearsay, of course, and allegedly, of course. Not that I really care about that, but the reputation he had wasn't exactly dynamic, and you had most of the staff members there who I know factually, who put up a stink and said we don't want him, and yet all of a sudden no. I mean, that's hardly democratic, is it? I mean, look, it's almost bordering on gossip here, but it makes you wonder, doesn't it, what's going on
Well,
here?
at least, because it happens time and time again, and the cut at Radio New Zealand say there's no increase with inflation for their money for the last 9 years. Television New Zealand's the new CEO there. It's happening across the media. Good old Radio New Zealand, good old CTV.
Yeah, well, touch wood. Andrew, why was Campbell Live an important program? Because I believe it was. I don't believe all the stories were probably necessary in my view, but we'll watch TV and go, that was good and that was bad. But fundamentally, I still believe we were better off with Campbell Live.
Absolutely. Well, one, because they were and still are, very experienced and competent journalists who were given an amount of resources to do what they do. But secondly, because they also took the attitude that journalism is about, there's a couple of phrases about one speaking truth to power, and that doesn't matter who's the government, to basically, or the large corporations to basically knock on their door and say, hang on, this isn't right. And there's another great saying about journalists about comforting the afflicted and afflicting the comfortable. So it's a matter of looking out for the little guy and basically, as I say, speaking truth to power, and that's what Campbell Live did a lot more than, well, for example, there was, you may have seen the little spiel by Mike Hosking the other day on, I just came across it on the internet, where he was basically saying, hey, why don't we have some good news stories? I'm sick of all the whiners and I want to see more good news. And I'm thinking, Mike, there's a place for that, but it's not news and current affairs. So, either deliver it or move over.
Jared, the programme was accused by some of its critics as being too left. What do you make of that? I always thought it was a bit of an odd statement, really, because so doing stories on those who require a bit of additional help, or doing stories on Pike River, or doing stories on the Christchurch earthquakes, or holding EQC with insurance companies is to be sneered about. I couldn't understand that mentality.
I don't know about the left and right, but I think it's the job of journalism to challenge those in power and the decisions that are made. So whoever's in power, they are often taking the opposite tact.
What do you make of this internal memo that was released, I think, on the New Zealand Herald website for all to see in a PDF? It was quite remarkable, suggesting that Campbell Live stories there was viewer fatigue with the earthquakes in Pike River.
I think there is in Auckland, but then again, there is in Christchurch about the length of the wharf in Auckland.
Oh, yes.
And house prices in Auckland.
Yes. I mean, I couldn't give a flying. What's the word? Flying something.
Flying something.
Yeah, about the house price, all those things. So there is viewer fatigue down here too. It's just that it doesn't go both ways.
But it seemed to me like on News Talks I can bring up an issue and trying to encourage them to call in and moan about whatever's going wrong with their insurance issues or earthquake issues. And now I'll be lucky if I get one call on it. However, on Campbell Live, if they ask for that same for the same questions, they will be absolutely inundated, because I think that people in Christchurch want to know that the rest of the country want to tell the rest of the country we're stuffed, and this could happen to you in Wellington.
Yeah.
Your volcanoes could erupt in Auckland. You could be buggered too.
I think more importantly, we want to tell each other, and that's the vehicle we don't have, because we've got to, for us to talk to each other, we've got to filter through a larger audience who are disinterested in Auckland, and understandably.
In the television media, and I speak here nationally, who then has the ability to hold the government ministers to account on the day if they stuff up, if they say something stupid, if they're out of touch with what we believe is reality? I would go to Campbell Live. Where am I going to go to get that now? I mean, there's Q&A and there's the other show on 3, which I think are great, but they're not in the face of the public. They're on, in times where you would say, arguably, nobody's watching a lot of television,
well,
apart from those who are interested in current affairs, perhaps.
If I was a stroppy politician in today's climate, I wouldn't want to be asked those questions. So if I'd been in power long enough, I'd make every effort for those questions not to exist.
It's interesting how, looking at John Key now, who's in the third term of his prime ministership, and things are beginning to just look a little shaky, as they always do. For the first 2 terms, he more or less stayed away from hard news. He would not front up to Morning Report. He would not. You would not.
That's
he
right,
would
yeah.
basically go and would chat on the commercial radio, music radio stations.
Oh, he still does.
Yes, that's right.
On the edge, laughing and doing gangster style stuff, which is that's fine.
That's fine. But sorry to interrupt. But that he would basically stay away, insulate himself from that sort of thing, and not expose himself to that scrutiny, basically.
So I want to talk about 7 Sharp because it rates extremely well. In fact, better than what Close Up did in its day. Does that suggest, though, that perhaps people want light relief, and is that really a bad thing then?
How do we know what we want? Is it unfair to have the parallel? If you feed a child candy floss, they're not going to want silver beet, are they?
That's a very good way to look at it.
Are they? I mean, that's what they're given. That's what we're given.
But some would argue the silver beet costs the parents more, in this case the producers more.
But the people might be better off, mightn't they?
Well, yeah, because sugar's bad for your teeth. Andrew?
Well, I have no problem with a program like 7 Sharp, as long as there is a place for a more an accessible, serious current affairs program.
Let me ask you this question.
I'd like to
7
see
Sharp.
11 Sharp.
7 Sharp comes. What was that?
I think 11 Sharp would be probably
11 Sharp.
Yeah.
11 is slightly out of focus.
7 Sharp is under the umbrella of current affairs on the TVNZ website. Should it be?
No.
Why not?
Because it doesn't really, for me, meet that objective of questioning decisions made by the powerful in this country. It doesn't deal with those.
We've got to take a break. Gee, there's so much to discuss. We're not even halfway through my list of questions. When we come back, I think we should sort of on the last half is talk about hope, because if there's no hope, then I'm going to start drinking again. Stay with us. When you need to know what's happening in your region of Canterbury, join me, Chris Lynched, for CTV News First at 5, weeknights from 5, right here on your local channel, CTV.
Computer not working? Replace or repair? DIY or get a technician? Looking for parts? Thinking of upgrading? Need accessories? You've got questions, we've got answers. Global PC.
preparation, the devotion, the fearlessness, the intensity. Runway model management. First impressions are everything.
Made to measure interiors, made with care, made for you.
Join Graham Sinclair and the team at Gone Fishing as they bring you great stories, fishing tips and beautiful scenery. Gone Fishing, Friday night at 8:30, right here on CTV.
Welcome back to Lynched on CTV. We're just discussing, this is the last segment, it goes so fast, doesn't it? Commercial television, you see. Guys, let's discuss, well, I want to discuss a bit of hope, but I quickly want to touch on TVNZ's charter. That was doomed to failure, wasn't it? Because here we have a charter that says you have to honour minorities while at the same time make money. That charter was well intended, but it was always conflicted, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think things had bolted before, really. It was well down the road of commercial television, and it was sort of a stopgap measure, as it was. History shows it was an interim sort of measure, wasn't it? It doesn't exist now, so it didn't really work. Was it 15 million a year?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. It's not a huge amount.
But now the government of the day would argue that they scrapped that because now New Zealand Air's got more money. Is that fair?
Well, New Zealand On Air, it's interesting in New Zealand, I don't know whether people realise, but New Zealand On Air funds stuff, but it has to find a broadcaster, and the broadcaster can say yay or nay to what New Zealand On Air want to fund. So that's and of course the leverage is with the broadcaster, because they might not want to play it.
Let's discuss TVNZ7. I had a brief association with this channel. Ran on a shoestring budget, as it always did. Yeah. It was basically the poor man's version of One News. But then again, this government says, well, Labor didn't bother to ring-fence future funding. So, and there was, I mean, is that fair, or are they just trying to blame the previous government for cancelling a channel that they didn't want to like?
I've never understood that argument. It's like, well, they didn't, so why don't you, if it's a good idea? Why don't you ring-fence? I've this idea, which isn't actually my idea, but it seems to me that an expanded version of TVNZ7 could be the answer. People need a place to go to where they can see the news and then they can watch more in-depth current affairs. There's a whole sort of tranche of other programs that could line up there. They used to have the law program and
that was good.
That's right. Yeah. And what it is now, obviously,
Media 7 on that channel.
Yeah, maybe Media 7. Yeah, exactly. So obviously we can't afford a BBC model of a public broadcaster, but it seems to me if you strip it down to those news and current events and those sort of things of public interest, then we should be able to fund that. And then we're talking about technology before. It need not actually be, to my mind, actually on broadcast TV we think about it these days.
See, that's what Amy Adams was saying. She's the current broadcasting minister, isn't she?
Yeah.
I asked her, I said, what's the deal here with, why get rid of TVNZ7? She said, well, it's online as the beast now. It's multi-platforms. Is that a cop-out, or is there some truth in that the days of traditional TV are numbered, and therefore it used to be the days where online was seen as complementary? Is online actually now becoming the traditional means of getting our daily news feed?
I think that's where the hope is. I think it shall become that. But we're in transition, and sadly the transition's going to take a long time. So there's, at the moment there's not much around. In the future, I think that's what the new regional discussion is happening, is that there will be more money given for an online presence. So if you partner up with somebody who publishes a lot, it might be a Fairfax publication, it could be a Facebook site in Christchurch, maybe Rebuild Christchurch, maybe CTV, but somewhere where you can actually publish stories and they may be publicly funded.
That's right. And it's probably not the way we tend to think of the internet now as a place that if you go on Google and if you keep searching, you might find an interesting thing. There was an interesting presentation in Christchurch a couple of months ago by YouTube, who came here and said, hey, we're basically the TV channel of the future, and this is how it's going to work. People, organisations can have what's called a YouTube channel, and in a way, they're very much like the old TV model. On that channel, they will say, we will be dropping in new information, like a new programs, like at such and such on a Monday night, it'll be the Chris Lynched Show on the Chris Lynched channel. It's all Chris, all the time, and you will be able to see all Chris Lynch's old shows, and in those particular times, like on a regular TV station, we'll be showing new stuff.
And I like that, because it's fresh.
We've got that now, don't we? We've actually got that now, YouTube.
Yeah, no. I think the point is that the people tend to think of YouTube at the moment as if I search, I'll find a funny cat video, and I don't know when the next one's going to appear. But it's changing to basically like a virtual TV channel. And the great thing about that is that you don't have the gatekeeper of the network to basically say, sorry, we can't screen that. You basically need what we're looking at now and a computer to upload it. And then in terms of public service, current affairs, you need to be able to fund the journalistic team, basically.
I've only got 2 minutes left. I wanted to, you're quite interested in the social media as such. Is it a good or a bad thing? Is social media, is that helping or hindering current affairs in this country and globally?
It's a good and a bad thing. You know, the bad side of it, obviously, is that people aren't accountable. But then again, some of the large corporate media places aren't that accountable either. So there's no guarantee in any media for accountability. But look what happened recently in the States with social media on the police shootings of Native Americans. There are 750 police shootings of Americans every year in America. Now that's become a huge subject because of social media. People started posting cell phone footage of these happenings.
That was incredible. That the one thing that I can think of now, and you think to yourself, if that was not posted online,
wouldn't have been talked about.
That police officer would not have been charged and arrested with murder.
And that's democracy, isn't it? It's where the fourth estate is essential for that sort of, and the new fourth estate is social media. The
danger there, though, of course, is some of the stuff can be changed. And how do you know it's authentic?
There's always human beings involved, and there's always a danger of, manipulation and whatever.
All right, we've got only a couple of moments left, so let's discuss the future of public television. Let's discuss the solution in 30 seconds, shall we? What are we going to do then? I mean, is the answer a TVNZ model? Is that it? A TVNZ 7 model, I beg your pardon?
Well, I think so. I think you still have New Zealand on here to fund various programs like What Now and that sort of thing, and comedies and dramas with a New Zealand slant. But in terms of news and current affairs, I think just a little agile channel that may be broadcast or it may be on the internet that is basically publicly funded to enable those journalists to do their job.
If the appetite is there, then it should happen, shouldn't it, Jerry?
Yes, I think it will in time. It's just the time it takes. I asked my daughters whether they watch television and their friends. And in fact, I'm making it my business to do so. None of them have televisions in their houses, these young kids. They don't. They watch it on the internet. So
that's a scary thought, isn't it?
Well, it might be for you, Chris.
Is that good or bad?
I don't know.
Am I out of a job?
I don't know.
I'm going to start drinking.
I think we're always going to have stories told. It's the medium they're told in.
Yeah, nicely said. Thanks so much for coming in, Jerry Smythe and Andrew Gunn. Good to see you.
Thank you.
You didn't say anything risky, so well done. Good on you. That's our show. Thank you so much for joining me. Of course, join us on News Talks will be tomorrow, where my guest will be Christchurch Mayor Leanne Dalzell, but from the CTV News team. Have a good night.